Hey everybody, Sean Day, Higher League Chill. How you doing out there? You know it's Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Although I do throw a couple jukes and weaves out there every now and again. I'll pop up on a Thursday or something like that, and who the hell knows where we're at. I do know it is Tuesday at 2:30 because my good friend here, David, who I'll introduce in a minute, had a book come out, man, and I said, we got to get you on and talk about this book. And he scheduled that up, and I tied him up maybe a month and a half ago or something like that, so he couldn't escape. And I knew it'd be on a Tuesday at 2:30 when I can do it that far in advance. And so, David, how you doing, my friend?
Good, Sean. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to jam out with you for a bit here, man. Hopefully bring everyone some value today on this terrific Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll do what we normally do, and that's toss it your way to just kind of outline a little bit about who you are and what's going on, and we'll go from there.
Sure, man. So yeah, pretty much taking it way back. I painted my way through college. Actually went to college on a soccer scholarship. I got 2 concussions within the same month. And so I was actually sidelined from the team. I had to see head doctors, and they basically said, hey, your head's too messed up. You're actually not allowed to play soccer for the foreseeable. So I had to forego my scholarship. I was laid up on bed for about a month. And once I was able to kind of resume more normal activities, I ran into a campus recruiter, and they basically said, hey, you could probably make 20 grand in a summer if you run your own painting business. So I took that opportunity home to the kitchen table. My dad said, probably sounds like a great opportunity. My mom said, it kind of sounds like a scam. I don't know if you should do it. I ended up siding with my dad. And I ran that painting business for the next 4 years, all the way through college. And then I bought my first place, Sean, after painting my way through college. And then I had something called a mortgage payment. And I said, man, I need to keep up this level of income to pay this mortgage payment. So I continued on with the painting business. In 2016, I got a little tired of paying something called a royalty fee, which I was, paying every single year as the painting business grew. And so I started this little baby pressure washing business. I called it Revive Washing. And that started with $3,000 of capital, bought a used Astrovan, $189 Ryobi pressure washer. And I was in the game, man. I was pressure washing. I really learned about systems. I read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, and really just obsessed about building this franchise prototype model. I really wanted that business to run without Dave. Took me about 4 years to make that happen. And then this last year, in 2025, 8 years later in the spring, I actually was able to successfully sell that business to a new ownership group. And so I had time on my hands, Sean. So this little book behind me, I just came out not even 3 weeks ago. And that is literally my brain in a book. How does an owner get off the tools, get off the truck, build a business? Here's the kicker, that can run without them. When I got Revive started, my number one goal was to be the least relevant person in the company. I didn't want the thing to have to need Dave. And that's how it was built. And the book tells you exactly how to do that. So that's like me business side. Personal, like we were chatting, man, I love to play golf. I'm a family man. I work from home. I clock out at 4 p.m. every day. This is a very, the businesses have always revolved around my lifestyle, not the other way around. And so if you want to learn to build $100 million business, like get off this stream. I have no idea how to do that. But if you want to build a successful business that can run without you and optimize for lifestyle, I've learned a few things along the way, and it's all in my book here. And hopefully your copy comes soon, Sean, because we put that in the mail a couple weeks ago.
Just got it yesterday, I think it was. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, or maybe 2 days ago, because I read it. I read about half of it in one sitting, and finished it up actually last night. So I got it Sunday. It had it on Sunday or Saturday maybe.
Sweet.
Yep, and it's a good read because it's a simple read. It's not too overcomplicated at all, but it's super potent at the same time, which that's my kind of read. It's got a tad of Michael Gerber in it, but Michael Gerber's book's as big as a Bible. But it's good. You've read it, you know it. E-Myth. And it really consolidates a lot of different things and ideas about turnkeying your business and figuring out how to step aside. One of the things that, I don't know how long we've known each other. I know it was pre-COVID, I'm sure. So we've known each other for a number of years here. And one of the things that I saw, I kind of saw you come from wherever you were to all of a sudden, who's this guy all over Facebook? Who's this guy showing up on all these podcasts? And now school and groups in school and things like that. And I saw that early on. I really was drawn to you just because of your ability to come across very well spoken, but at the same time down to earth and very simplistic ways of doing things. You've never said things are simple, but you really lay it out in a simple format to follow things very easily. And what's really cool about that, when I was reading the book, there's every now and again I kind of would chuckle, and it was because of that sort of history of me being able to get a front row view of your career in a way, man, because I've known you for a long enough time where I remember you with the pressure washing business, and then all of a sudden you evolved and you reinvented yourself a little bit, or maybe not reinvented, but you just evolved into this thing that I am sure you never saw coming 20 years ago or 15 years ago, right?
Oh, 100%. Here's the funny thing. I put it in my book too, Sean, is I was actually in speech therapy for a number of years. And it's literally ironic that 3 decades later, I get paid now to tour around and speak, which is crazy. But no, I think anyone would be lying if they're like, oh, I had this perfectly mapped out plan. I honestly had no plans of even selling Revive until about 18 months, 2 years ago. I was literally running it on cruise control with a manager. It was running without Dave. It was an excellent business to have. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to grow this thing and sell it. Same with my coaching business right now. I'm just enjoying the day-to-day, showing up, running calls, helping our members. The book, man, took me 3 years to author. It had no timeline. I had no idea it'd become a best-selling book on Amazon in the first 3 weeks. It's so a lot of my life is just taking action and not, I always say it, I tell all my guys, don't be married to the outcome. I think we're all oh, you have to get married by 30, or it's you don't have to do anything by any time. Who's making the rules here? You just need to go through life, I feel and find general harmony in your day to day and try it. It's cliche, enjoy the process. But the book behind me, because I had no timeline, I really enjoyed writing it. It's 33,000 words. It's a simple read. Not a single word is written by ChatGPT or a ghostwriter. Here's the thing too, Sean, a lot of these books behind me, they're like lead magnets, man. You get in, you read the first chapter. It's buy my ticket. I'm if people want to work with me, great. But I'm going to assume 98% of the readers have no interest in that. They just want a really good guide. And so that's what I tried to deliver on with the book.
Yep. And I think you nailed it, man. A couple things, one of the things you touched on was action. And you use this word as well as everybody else. I try to use it sparingly now, and that's mindset. Mindset's important. It's in your book, and you've really hit the bullseye on why it's important, but really specifically to how to get out of the truck and your processes and systems and things like that, and how you can believe that you can actually do it. But I always go back to sort of tiny habits and that sort of the book. And I'm a big action guy because I can have the best attitude, the most positive attitude on the planet. And if I just sit here and bullshit with you all day, I'm never going to do anything. So the action to me is where the rubber meets the road. What is it about? And I certainly understand mindset. And I have a very good friend of mine that's a scientist at the Cleveland Clinic. And he studies peak. I don't know if he's still on this. It was a project, a research project. He was studying peak performers in athletics and business and so on. And I said, Ken, give it to me as a blue collar type of guy. I'm Sean. And he says to me, okay, here's a scoop. And he was studying positive thinking versus negative thinking, or in addition to negative thinking. And he said, you will go many feet, many feet, a foot when you think positive. You will go back 1.5 miles when you think negative. That's why negative thinking is so much more powerful than positive thinking. Tell me what your thought is with the mindset and that involving that kind of concept.
Yeah, totally. A mentor of mine, Sean, told me back in the day, this is very powerful. He said, speak the language of the person you want to become. So I shared this in the book. Like, I called myself CEO at my little itsy bitsy $89,000 revenue business in the first year. Dave was the CEO. And I always said we, and I had my buddies always call me on this. They're like, who is we? I'm like, we is me right now and a part-time assistant or a part-time virtual assistant. And you need to, I think the business owners I see in these Facebook groups, they get trapped in thinking that the business will only grow as big as they can. And they never remove their brain into the clouds and actually think like, man, this probably could be bigger than myself. And it's like the delusion of the owner to think that they could build something bigger than themselves. That first needs to be arrived in their mind. And then you can go hire a full-time technician and bring someone. And so I already knew in my mind's eye, I'm growing this thing. I didn't know it would work right away, but I knew I was the CEO and I knew I wanted to get it running without me. And I knew that I needed to bring a team of people around me. So the only thing limiting anyone watching this, it's 100% the psychology of the owner. And that's why I did a whole dedicated chapter in my book, just to I find it, Sean, such a disease. And you know this too. It's literally a disease of an owner operator thinking that no one can join their company. No one can do it as good as I can. Quality, the word of mouth is the only mark. It's like they tell themselves probably 15 cancerous statements every single day, every single hour that holds back their growth. And then they go on at night and go on a Facebook group and say, there's no one good out there. There's no one in my market. I tried Facebook ads. It's like this most low level $15 an hour mindset. And my goal is with my book that it obliterates that kind of mindset, because mindset, man, you used to be okay, I think, growing your business and not being fully thinking bigger. But in today's day and age with competitors, the economy, AI shifts, the owner's got to be so dialed mentally for a growth plan. Otherwise, you're kind of lost the race before the gun even went off.
Yeah. So the book's called Get Off the Truck with David Moerman. And so let's get in a little bit more about the book. And so we're talking about, and in this book, too, guys out there and gals, it is, we listen to Facebook, we listen to podcasts, maybe have a coach out there or thinking about getting a coach. There's a lot of people out there that are coaching that have been around for 20 years that have multi-million-dollar businesses. And I think sometimes forget what it was like to be that guy to try to get out of the truck, right? They're talking about, you need to open your 5th location by this time. You need to, like you said, this $100 million mindset. Tommy Mello is one of those guys. Everybody, Tommy Mello, who I respect immensely for what he's accomplished. I think Tommy would have a hard time going and talking about how to get out of a truck and really be passionate about that, where he's at in his career.
One of the first things Tommy told me was, until you've hit $10 million, you don't have a real business. I'm like, okay. It's literally he's the GOAT, dude. And him and people who buy Hermose's $6,000 book, no issue. But the delta from where you are to these guys that are absolutely iconic, it's so massive that it's almost, I'm not saying you absolutely can learn from them, but from a practical, this book is basically like an SOP, man. It's I've been told it reads like a podcast, because it's just here's a list, here's a bullet point. It's just, simplicity is one of my personal core values. And so I'm that's why the book's not hardcover. It's short. The audiobook is coming out. It's going to be short. And it's just like to the point. So yeah, my goal was, Sean, because I came from the field, because I was trapped in my own business, because I did this for 16 years, because I've helped hundreds of other businesses do it. I'm like, I just need a book to speak to that owner operator for like, here's the thing, how to do it. The last thing I'll say too, I got no issues with these other books, with eMyth and Profit First. They're all my faves. Who Not How. Again, you get this great theory, general how to do it, but for home services, I own a $115,000 window cleaning business in Chattanooga, Tennessee. What do I actually have to do to get to 500K or get to 750 or $1 million? And so that's what I wanted to do with the book.
Awesome. So one of the things you talk about a lot is the systems and operations. So when we're trying to get out of the truck, what is it that we need to make sure is in place without sort of having that paralysis of analysis? There's a sort of balance between just freaking do something, even if you fall on your face, and well, wait a minute here, we have to have processes and systems. Help me sort of understand how we walk that wire on those two issues.
Yeah, it's a super insightful question. I think the biggest thing is creating some kind of a daily or weekly rhythm that works for you. For example, for me, I share in the book, I was at Starbucks, Sean, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every single morning. My wife was a nurse, and that I'd see her off to work, and I would go to Starbucks and have one of these bad boys, and I would just start writing out short systems. Now, the listener may not be as analytical as I am. I tend to be fairly calculated, and I'm very list oriented. That's just how my brain works. So if you're not like that, that's fine. I still believe in a weekly rhythm. You need this many hours, 5 hours, to be the CEO of your business. Okay. If you looked at the listeners here, the last 2 weeks, how many were those CEO hours? I would wager probably very few, because they didn't go out and actually make the time to do that. Now, today, I'm a family man, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's actually like a really precious window where I'm grabbing my kiddo, getting breakfast going. We're shooting some hoops in the ball pit, getting them going. It wouldn't work today for for this stage of life, family man right now. So I would probably move mine to like a Thursday morning or a Thursday. I don't care when it is. You need to first block that actual time. And I call it in my book, CEO rainmaker activities. So this is doing things that actually will grow the revenue of the business. Okay. Not moving Mrs. Smith's appointment or following up on an estimate or, making an Instagram post. Those are all general things of the day-to-day of the business. I'm talking about things that happen multiple times. Let's give you an example. In inbound call script, Sean, I'm running my 115K window cleaning business. I know I'm going to get 700 phone calls this year for window cleaning. What do you think are the main questions people are going to ask? Do you do in and out? Do I get a discount if my neighbor books? Do you have a guarantee? How do I pay? So I'm going to walk all those things down in an SOP list so that my VA, when I hire them, they're going to know the answers to all the questions. So that's just how my brain works. If I do something twice, I'm like secretly kind of ticked off, because I'm like, how do I not have like a standard system for this? So you can imagine I'm very fun to live with at home. Everything is structured and organized, but it's like, it goes to a point. You need, people ask, oh, how do I have an SOP if my technician gets in a car accident? Like, some things are just unavoidable. Before I exited the business, one of our Revive vans got sideswiped, and it was like, okay, is everyone safe? Okay. Like I'll deal with the insurance, call this, do that. It's like, you want to plan on things happening multiple times over, not for the one-off. And it breaks my heart that service business owners, they like post on Instagram, they started a business, everyone says great, they don't know they're signing up to run on a hamster wheel because they've never heard systems, and they just sign up, Sean, for this insanity to do the same thing over day to day of their business. And everyone watching right now is guilty of it. You're probably doing $25 an hour tasks in your business. And here's the last thing I'll say. My mentor told me back in the day, Sean, he said, did you ever know, Dave, if you just paid people $20 to $40 an hour, they could run your entire business? I'd never heard someone tell me that. And I was like, cool. I'm just going to do $50 an hour stuff, then 75, then 100. and I'm never going to touch the $20 to $40 an hour stuff. And I did that for about 5 years at Revive. I did not do $20 to $40 an hour tasks. I did not let myself do that because that was the team's job to do that.
That's right. So one of the things, let's dig a little bit deeper in the weeds. So you got somebody that's in the truck. We're trying to get them out of the truck, trying to get them systems, processes, and things that will help them get out of that truck. What typically would you recommend, David, is the first person, your first hire? Is that somebody that's going to get in the truck for you? Is it a VA? Is it an admin? Is it what is that position typically you find that works the best?
So I used to coach on back in 2020, Sean. You know how it was. Home services were feasting. No one could find talent. Phone was ringing. Always said, get a technician, get the owner off the truck. Now, in the last 18 months, 2 years, the teeter-totters kind of swung, as you've seen in your business too, which is very insightful on your business you run, is how do we actually now solve for leads coming in for actually getting the phone to ring? So I've actually seen now the owner generally needing some part-time assistance now with a lot of the back end. So if you're sitting on Jobber or House Call Pro for any more than 10 hours a week, which a lot of the listeners are, like little red light dinging off, you should probably go get, I don't care if it's local office or VA, it doesn't matter. You need someone answering this, and on your CRM, on the browser, up on Google Chrome, you need someone doing that to help you out. So I'd usually say if you've done 100K, allocate 5 to 7% is kind of my sweet spot of revenue. Just put that aside to go get someone helping with some office. And here's the kicker, Sean. A lot of times owners think they hire for defense, right? I need someone to help schedule. And man, my office manager was a freaking rainmaker. She would sell 600K over the phone and email just because she'd say, oh, we should probably send someone to go look at that. And we could probably add on a roof with that and do. And so she always gave me a hard time saying, I don't just play defense, Dave. I'm on the offense too. So that'd be a first key shift. And I only say that, Sean, because the hundreds of companies I've worked with, I would say 9 times out of 10, the owner is generally male. They're not organized. And they are generally they got big, meaty hands, and they're usually better in the field than they are on a MacBook computer. Not all the time, just generally. So if that's your proclivity, play the owner to their strengths. And I would say first base, get a part-time VA once that's done. Second base is then creating your SOPs and getting an assistant to come with you in the truck and ultimately grow that person to be a lead technician. That would kind of be the second stage to master.
Okay. And on the topic of team building and delegating and that sort of thing, you do have a chapter in there on how to develop and build your team. So we're sort of leading into that. And that's, in part what I do, obviously, is in my recruiting business at Hire, Lead, and Chill. Mm-hmm. Right. So what are those things? I think I remember you a number of years back, or maybe the last time I had you on, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Maybe longer than that by now, maybe 2 years ago, you had talked about, I want to say maybe a hybrid type of training or a cross training. Mm-hmm. I very rarely have ever heard a home service business have that, what I think is a great insight when you are thinking like a CEO, when you are thinking about long-term on where and how your vision is going to be executed on. And that team has got to be pulled, and that energy has to go towards your vision in order to get out of the truck and away from your business so it operates without you. Talk a little bit more about that, and if that's still what you recommend. Yeah. Or, that's something that people, I guarantee you, probably nobody, unless they've been coached by you, has heard that before. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know, Sean, if it's a weird Canadian thing I have, but I'm just like... I was brought up with my business when I hired, actually in 2019, I hired a friend of mine to run production. And I said, hey, I'll give you 8% of all the revenue we do, but I'm not coming to the job site. I don't want to deal with issues because I was well aware stuff happens as you grow a pressure washing. I just wanted to sell. Yeah. And he got me on the fact of saying, Dave, why do we not give all our crews a price list of our simple services and let's teach them how to actually sell jobs? And we got that going. And then when we'd slow down in August, Sean, we would bring them and utilize their help to go do door knocking or drop flyers or go do signs, or we'd have these team rumble days. I'd bring everyone to my house, order pizza. Everyone would grab their phone. We would phone like 1,200 clients in a day. And just like, so it's like, we think technician, oh, you're just cleaning. I'm like, no, you have someone bought into your business. You have them for 30, 40 hours a week. Let's use time to do cleaning, do marketing, and do sales. So I think too many small businesses, they silo out their businesses too early. Of course, at a certain point, you can't have everyone doing everything. But I think when it's a small group, 3, 5, 6, 7 people, it's almost like a startup kind of feel where no one's saying that's not in my job description. But, you know, to your question, chapter 6 was my favorite chapter of my whole book to write. Because if you called up, Sean, 10 people today who really know me, like personally and business wise, if you're like, what's just the one thing Dave does, why his businesses do good? Bar none, I'm really good at finding great people, putting them in place, and then getting the heck out of their way and letting them do their thing. I'm a terrible micromanager. It also bites me in the butt because I delegate way too quickly, and then stuff blows up, and then I got to figure it out. But the other thing with hybrid was the year we did 582 grand. I didn't have, Sean, 60 grand laying around to go hire a full-time production manager. So I literally got my one, again, a best technician does not make a good manager, but in this case, my best technician, here's the kicker, he had the highest leadership capacity. So I thought, who could I put under you that could report to you and you would do a good job with it? His name was Steve. And I said, Steve, starting Fridays, we're not going to schedule you for any route work. I'm going to make you a list every week and you're just going to go bump this stuff off. So Steve would go run to Home Depot. He'd buy ladders, get harnesses for the crew. He'd go see a pissed off client. He'd go run this bid out. He'd go do all the $25 an hour stuff that didn't need to get done right away, but it still had to get done that week. And so Steve was so good on Fridays. I said, dude, you're going to do this on Thursdays too. And so the following year, I said, Steve, you're not even on site anymore. We're running now 4 trucks, 8 technicians. Anytime something happens, they're going to report to you. So that's how I utilize the hybrid role. You know, Steve costed me 15 grand that year, a whole lot better than 60. And I still got his time in the field. So again, just because someone's good at teching doesn't mean they're a good manager. But in certain cases, if someone shares your core values, and I trusted Steve so much, he had the code to my house, just an overall great guy. And Steve was instrumental in my exit from Revive too, that he knew the business in and out. The new owner met Steve and I'm like, here's your ride or die guy. And that was a big piece in linking me fully out of the business into the new owner. So it's all a system, but you know, getting great people on your team doesn't happen overnight. And that's why I went sequential in my book with, we need a vision first. We need a mindset. We got to get systems in place. We got to get the phone going. Now we got to get some great people on our team. So if there's a chapter to read twice or like 5 times, for me, at least it's chapter 6, because I've just never believed in running like a single owner business. I think that's a death sentence. And I just think business is more fun with a team.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt from, you know, the people that I've listened to, books I've read, authors, coaches. We're not in the pressure washing business. We're in the people business. We basically are in a staffing business. When it comes to the only product we have is the human being that goes out there to get face to face with our client. So therefore our product is our people. And so we're not selling widgets and shoes and t-shirts. I mean, that is our product. So we're in the staffing game. That's our game. And to your point, and I think, you know, I'll echo that big time, David, is that chapter on team building and recruiting and training and those sorts of things. Yeah, that's the business you're in. I don't care if it's pressure washing, maid service, painting. If it's a service business, you're in the staffing in recruiting business, because if you do that better than anybody down the street, you're going to win every single time.
Yeah. And that's exactly why your business exists, Sean, is like showing people this is how you get great people on your team, because like it's got to be a light bulb moment though for the owner, where I'm sure a lot of us have hired people. I know you have, Sean, where it's like they just drop the ball and it almost chips away at our mindset and think, Sean, why are you even trying to get off the truck? Like you should just do the job. And at a certain point that works, but the owner has to be more sold out on their vision of building something bigger than just themselves. And they have to be willing to take some bumps along the way. It's like winning a sports game. Like you're going to get injured. You're going to fall behind, go ahead. Ball's going to go out of bounds. Fans are going to boo at you. Like that is the essence of being an entrepreneur. I don't really think people should sign up to be an entrepreneur, because I think most people lack the general insanity amount of resilience you need to push the ball across the end zone. Most people can't do it. But if you can figure out, like if there's just two things to solve for, I would say is get a bit of an appreciation for systems and learn how to be the biggest beauty in your market. Like you look at a guy like Tommy. If I lived in Arizona, I would want to go join Tommy. He's got it going on. He's got the sweet house. He's such a nice guy. When I message him, he replies. I'm like, how does this guy have time for me? He's the biggest beauty in his market. So if you take a page out of his book, it's not very hard in home services to be the biggest beauty. And that's how you're going to start to pull some great people in. And the last thing I'll say, and I shared it in chapter 6, I don't know why this is a thing, Sean, but it's always like me going to buy a new car, a new house. I always spend a bit more than I want to, than my budget, but I always get something awesome. And I just don't like a lot of friction in my life. And so I don't like, hunting for a deal because there's usually a full story with that. So I always like overpay a little bit. And I do this with my rentals. I actually go the opposite. I just sold my car on the weekend. I underlisted it, Sean. I sold it in 3 hours to the first guy, because I'm like, it's not worth having people come to my home and dick around. I want the biggest beauty. Here you go. It's a sweet car. And so I just have always believed in leaving some money on the table in every business deal, because it's just how life works. And my brain is just focused on making more money and helping more people out. Even my book, Sean, someone messaged me yesterday. They're like, why the F is this thing $10? You should charge way. I'm like, this is the entry into my brain and my world, what I'm doing. So if I could give it for $10, I'm going to do that. So my point, I've always found you get the best people. Here's the thing. You pay about 15 to 20% above the going rate. I always overpay my staff. And here's the thing. My technician, Steve, was with me 5 years. My other guys were with me like 2, 3, 4 years. And that's how the business ran, was me overpaying my people so they stick with me, I think is a superior business model.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And I'll tell you, I get an awful lot of small businesses that come to me to help with their recruiting. Obviously, Hire Lead Chill, we're a full-time recruiting department for home service industries. And I say department on purpose because that's what we are. We want to be your full-time recruiting department. That's how I say it. And I always run into, well, I want to start them out at this. Okay. And I say, are you looking for somebody that is an A type of employee, or are you looking for somebody that's going to be a $15 an hour employee? Because then you're advertising for a $15 an hour employee because you're going to start them there. And this whole mindset that I've been working on for Plata and I for probably 6 years now or more has been, we need to put the ego on the shelf. And when I'm asked, what's the number one obstacle that I see that prevents a business owner from executing on their hiring needs, is their ego. Okay. And the ego has got to go from, you need to prove why you're worthy enough to work for my company, because I've been burned so many damn times and I'm so frustrated. I never started a business because I love to recruit and interview and ask them. And so that's what this poor guy in front of you is left with. And so then we get burned so much. I paid this guy $25 an hour to start and I got burned. Had nothing to do with the screening process or lack of systems and process. All those things were the problem. Look in the mirror problem, right? And so to your point, exactly, if you want to attract somebody that is going to be outstanding and the best in your area, the best, not settling for the average Joe, the world-class best, because you guys deserve world-class employees, then you need to advertise for that, and that includes paycheck.
100%, man. Couldn't have said it better. And like the only way that you be okay paying people top dollar is the owner themselves. You need to almost like ascend your level of thinking and life before like people want to fall in line and join you. I made this like diagram in my book, like kind of with a sad face around people calling technicians like helpers. Even the whole word like employees, I more prefer like team members is Tommy calls them his coworkers, right? I just think words are very powerful. And I think when you look at your people like, minions or pawns on a chessboard or like, disposable on a profit and loss statement. These are the people I saw, the technicians. Like we did 5,500 jobs before I exited the company. I hired over 54 team members and we did just under $4 million in revenue since startup. The only way that happened, and every Google review doesn't say Dave is amazing. The only way that happened was I invested heftily, if that's a word, into my own self-education. And I read tons of business books, but I also, man, I just worked from sun up to sundown. Like the first 3 years of Revive, it was a 36-month, like whiteout, just going 6 days a week. And as much as I'm now like preaching balance, it's great, but I've never seen a business find like any moderate level of success without the first 36 months just being like, go, go, go. And that's the thing people don't talk about. It's always taken me now. I've done it 4 times. So I've done it 4 times now over 16 years. I've grown 4 different companies and it never clicks in, Sean, until like year 4. And that's just because the first 3, I'm just like go and go. And that's why people are like, what are you going to start up now? I'm like, man, I have a family. That's like, you just start thinking about this stuff. And so I think that's the biggest thing too, with attracting great people. The owner needs to first like grow themselves, whatever that may look like. So they're worthy of bringing those great people into their business.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was like 3 or 4 years of my business, my cleaning business. I remember one of my friends, she asked me, she said, how many hours a week do you work? And I literally just laughed. I said, I have no idea. So I tracked it like the next couple weeks and it was well over 100 hours. That's I wake up, I go to bed, and that's what you do. And there are a lot of hard things that go on with business. So you don't, in your book or in your coaching, from what I understand, and just knowing you all the years I've known you, David, you've never been the guy that said, here's the systems, it's easy and don't worry about anything. It's not easy, but there's simple things you have to do. And what sometimes I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we are really dominant. We've got bigger egos than some other people out there in the world. We're a little bit more energetic at times, I think, and you have to be passionate. We're a little bit more passionate than other people. That's sort of like some of the ingredients that go into making an entrepreneur. With all that said, it's like I never really found my footing until I learned that I can do all of this with some peace.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of that growth with peace, and you're right, after that 3 or 4 years, it's hectic. There's not a lot of peace, to be honest with you. But as you grow and get on with it, I think and that's part of our vision at Higher Lead Chill, is that I want to help you grow and scale on the employee side of your business. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not even necessarily the systems guys and all that stuff. That's your thing. I'm just the employee side. I'm hyper focused on the employee side, but I want peace in that. Why else on earth would you be in business? I mean, to be crazy and hectic. And my view is if you can solve the employee side of your business, there's a lot less divorce attorneys we're going to need in the world. You're going to be a better husband, better father, a better friend, the man you want to be. Those things are what life's all about. And that's why I focus on that end. But I want to get into your book with the marketing end of it a little bit too, as we start to go down the chapters of the book, and we're kind of hopping around a little bit. And that's okay. How much easier is marketing and sales when you have the employee side figured out, right?
Yeah.
If I have shitty employees, I'm a little bit hesitant on what my price might be or how comfortable.
Yeah.
But once you got that side, let's assume the employee side set, you've got your admin, then you got somebody in the truck for you. And marketing obviously has to go along with that. But what talk a little bit more about the brand. And I'm just a guy, I barely got out of my truck. What the hell does a brand mean? Why do I need a brand? How does that tie into marketing?
Yeah, totally.
You're really good at that.
I mean, Mark, like, I love getting great people, but my first love, Sean, was honestly marketing. And even this book, it's like, I just love marketing it. It's fun and second nature to me. So the big thing is like, yeah, you want to have, I think, congruence in your values when you're going out to do estimates, right? So if you can't, like, I always thought, what crew would I send to my mother-in-law's house, right? And I'm like, I want to make sure I send the best crew that I have. That's how you should ideally feel about sending your crew into any job. And before I exited the company, we had, Sean, 5 year-round absolute stud techs. I'd send them all to my mother-in-law's house, do Christmas lights, do windows, do whatever. Awesome, great people. Not only good at doing the services, more importantly, core value fits for me. The whole business, we hired and fired on 5 very key core values. And if someone could pass that test of core values, I knew that in a period of about 1 to 2 months, I could train them up with my services. And here's the kicker. I'll never touch a business with more operational complexity. I loved the window cleaning and pressure washing because you could train someone very simply, as you saw in your business as well. So yeah, like, it's kind of this chicken or egg thing. Do you blow up the marketing first, or do you get great people? Growing a business, you kind of need to do everything. And that's where guys like you and me excel, because I can get like really good tunnel vision on something. So if I'm looking at November next month, I'm like, I'm going to take the first 2 months and go ham on marketing, and the back two months, I'm going to go ham on recruiting and hiring. And by December 1st, I'm going to have more leads and I'm going to have a great technician. I just know that I know how to do that. But I think for a lot of owners, they get kind of overwhelmed. Like, how do I do everything at the same time? So marketing gets a lot easier when you have a great product. And in a service business, you hit it a half hour ago, your only product here, there's nothing proprietary. It's literally the quality of your people. So I always told everyone, I got paid at Revive based on how well I could go and professionally marry my crew to affluent homeowners. So I live in a very wealthy area here in Canada. No one really does their own stuff here. They all hire out. So it's just, are you going to choose Revive, or are you going to choose one of the other 85 pressure washing companies? It's kind of like Florida a little bit. And so I just said, why don't I build the best brand? And a brand is really what someone says about you when you're not there. So if I went on our local Facebook groups and I searched Revive, the comments would be generally positive that the crew, like, 2 of the most common words, Sean, in 8 years, friendly and professional. So many of our Google reviews were like, man, that crew is so friendly. They were so professional. And so that goes it. The brand is not just the logo or what's on the truck. It's like this whole encompassing feeling of how a business operates, from what is said on Google to what your website looks like. In today's day and age, man, the sniff test is so key. And you look at what's happening on Grok and ChatGPT, it's the companies that are going to be ranking are the ones that have a brand, which are like, where are you on the internet and what are people saying about you? That's what's going to be in like a relevant search. So marketing for me, the owner minimum needs to invest 10 hours per week growing their brand. I call it in my book, passionately promoting their brand. Right. Could literally be showing up wearing your uniform. Doesn't have to be a BNI group event, but it could be. It could literally be doing a sign blitz. I've got guys I'm coaching, man. They go out Friday night, they put up 50 signs, and then they go back out Sunday night and they pick them up. It's not glamorous, but that is a form of guerrilla marketing that will grow your brand. So there's all these different tactics. I talk about them in my book, but the big overarching theme is like, don't put all your money into paid ads. I'd rather grow a brand. Because when I'm marketing, man, like for my coaching business, that's why I love these podcasts and YouTube, because you make something, and the book, you make something once, and if it's iconic, the virality will go and people will start talking and sharing. And so I don't need to go to Facebook and say, here's $1,000 every day, like go promote my book. And so with a service business, you should leave that customer. You want the experience to really be remarkable, and you want your crew to be so friendly and professional that they're just not thinking to go and hire anybody. And it's honestly, with the right people, Sean, you've seen this, like it's actually like not that hard to do. It's just, it might take you multiple months to get someone truly incredible driving your truck and fulfilling your services. Yeah,
I agree. The book's Get Off the Truck, David Moerman. It's a bestseller already on Amazon. And as I read it, and as just knowing you, this isn't a ChatGPT book. This is a book. Yeah. There's a lot of ChatGPT books out there. This is you. These are things you were saying before ChatGPT was out, and these are things that are in your words and expressed, as though we were having a conversation. And it's a really good read. It's an easy read, but it's got a lot of meat on the bone. The last thing I want to kind of talk about that we haven't gotten to is you talk about financial and profitability in that book as well. It's not just how to get some good people, how to brand, how to market, how to sell, but now what do we do with the numbers? Because that is being a business partner with Dan Plata, the best damn bookkeeping guy, numbers are big with him, so and he taught me an awful lot on that. You should have seen when Blue Skies bought my business, when I first met Dan, I don't know how much time he had to spend on trying to decipher what the hell. I pretty much had labor and miscellaneous was pretty much my two accounts. Yeah. So talk through, I want to know what you mean in your book, Get Off the Truck, and David Moerman's book. What in the hell do you mean by profit or money or the financial end as far as a system?
Yeah, totally. So lots to this. Is actually one of the longer chapters in the book. I started with like 11 really common KPIs, I believe, simple, that you need in a business. And there's a lot more than 11, but for purposes of the reader, keeping things simple, usually that's a great place to start. One of the free bonuses, actually, Sean, we've had a lot of people rave about the bonuses, actually have a standardized template for a profit and loss on what the number, I'll talk about it, what the numbers should look like for a $500,000 cleaning business. Now, a lot of owners listening will be doing 150 to 200K as a solo operator. They make 100 grand on that. Great. And they want to grow. It gets really messy, man, at like 300, 350, 400. Usually 500's like generally like a sweet spot where I believe the business is a small amount of team members. The business can start to function without the owner always being on the job site. There can be an office admin in place, and the owner will be able to make about a 20% net profit. Now, I always take, and Dan's better to talk to than me, but I've generally found if you marry up owner's compensation with the net profit of the business, we want those numbers to be in a general ballpark of about 30%. Could be 40, could be 20, but if you want to pay yourself 10, great, 5%, whatever it is. But we want to make sure the owner's paying themselves typically what they need, not necessarily what they want. What they need is, again, the first 3 years, every dollar we can chuck back into the business, as long as you know what you're doing, it's probably going to outperform anything happening in stocks right now, and certainly anything in real estate. So I've always found pay myself what I need as a fair market salary, and then keep the rest in the business and keep chucking it back in for growth. So to answer your question, typically around 20% is what we want to see. The beautiful thing why I love cleaning businesses, Sean, our material costs year over year was like 2.5%. It was just like on a $500,000 business, I can do that and spend 10 to 15K on cleaning agents, and you're good to go. So then you're left with labor, which is your biggest cost on your profit and loss. Then you've got overhead, which includes your owner pay, and then by the time the dust settles, everything paid, generally in and about that 20% is a good marker. And again, everything financially is situational, dependent on the business. But for most listeners on this, like, people just want a basic answer. And that's what I tried to do in the book, was keep it fairly basic and general for a service business.
Yeah, you're right in line with what Dan Plata usually talks about. So I think that's, that's a good gauge on where things are. And just to sort of underscore something that I've seen in the past and I stumbled with, is I think that a lot of us, when we get to that $500,000 mark and we got out of the truck, we get to that $500,000 mark and we don't realize how expensive growth is, right? We might be making $100,000, but do we want to pay ourselves $100,000, or do we need 20,000 of that to get another crew set up and to do the more marketing for that? Anytime your revenue goes up, your insurances are going to go up along with that, typically, unemployment, workers' comp, and all the like, right? Those are usually revenue-based types of things. Wait a minute, what are we doing? We didn't have a shop. Do I need a shop now? I've got 3 trucks. What are we going to do with these trucks? All those things become expensive. So I think, you make a really good point about that. This is part of the system, the part of understanding that you've got to prepare for something like that. And in order to prepare, we have to have systems. We have to, and systems basically can help us plan. And those processes and systems that we use to get off the truck, to get to that $250,000, $300,000, are not always the same systems that we have at $500,000 and $600,000.
Totally, man. And I did a few things, just to share before we wrap. I did a few things that were like, not countercultural, but probably contrary to what you'd read, right? Again, there's all these limiting beliefs. So I scaled the business, man. We did not have a central headquarters where we park all the trucks. I literally had our lead technicians, like, is a $6,500 a month line item if I wanted to get a Revive HQ. I wanted to do it for $2,400. So what did I do? I got a local office space where our 2-person office team worked from. We could rent the boardroom, do meetings, interviews, whatever. And I went across the street and we leased out different self-storage facilities. They were $300 a pop. It was all inside, security, lighting, heating. We do all our Christmas light storage, extra stuff there. And then instead of giving my guys a raise, I let the lead technicians drive our trucks home to their property each night. So instead of $6,500, I did it for $2,400. That's $50K over the cost of the year. Dan would be happy with that. Number 2, everyone said, you need paid ads. You got to do it. I scaled the business to $600K, not a dime in paid ads. I don't believe you need to do it. I think you can do it. I don't think you need to. So there's these stories we tell ourselves that you're not legit till you have a shop, or you have, it's like, I'm walking proof that you don't always have to follow this like conventional way that everyone does. And I did that all in an effort to protect that bottom line net profit. That worked in my market for my business. I'm not saying go and do that, but I'm saying challenge some of these assumptions that you have about your business. And the book is full of some limiting. I did a whole write-up on my limiting beliefs I had over the course of growing businesses that I'm like, no, this one was debunked because of this reason.
Love it. Real good stuff, man. I'm glad we got you on, and I'm glad you're doing really good things and successful things for you and other people and helping them out with this book. Get off the truck, get off the truck, get off the truck. We're going to post a link to Amazon, so anybody that's interested in getting the book, we'll have a link for you. I don't make a dime if you click on it or not. So it's not anything to do with Sean Day. It's to do with what I read over the last 2 days, which was called Get Off the Truck. And, it's going to help you. I guarantee you that. If you need any recruiting help, I'm hireleadchill.com. And David, if there's anything that you want to wrap up and just let any listener out there know, like one more thing that you want to say, go ahead and let it rip, and then we'll wrap it up.
Man, there's a lot. I guess I'll throw it back to you. I'm curious what's part of the book maybe made you chuckle, or I've got all kinds of comments. So I'm putting people on the hot seat like yourself of like, people are like, I didn't know you weren't handy and you couldn't hang pictures. Like, that's kind of funny. Like, was there a specific part you were like, oh, that was kind of a funny little tidbit about Dave or the book? I'm selfishly kind of curious.
I don't know that there is, other than the talk of I'm an employee guy, right? Mm-hmm. So the part about just treating them not like employees, but it's their business and stuff like that. Just knowing that we've talked about that hybrid thing before, and knowing how you are, and I laughed a little bit about that. That was probably the primary one, because I skipped right to the employee section of the book. Yeah. But the only part I didn't read was the financial part. Yeah. So other than that, it was just a good read, man. And it was a simple read. I didn't realize you had other businesses like that you had started. So I did learn a little bit about that. Yeah. But I do want to learn more about your golf game. I do know that.
That's a whole another book, man.
Another book?
I can't write the one on that. I'll leave that to you. But I'll leave you with this quote, man. And this was why one of our Revive clients, he was a business owner, and he always said, "Oh, your people are so pleasant when they come, etc." And he shared a quote. You'll probably get a good chuckle from. Is I always said, "Oh, my hack is you pay people good and they care for you, etc., etc." And he said, "Well, you know what the saying is, Dave?" I said, "What's the saying?" He said, "If you pay peanuts, you'll get monkeys." I thought it's such a good quote to wrap with for getting great people. So that gave me a good laugh. Yeah.
Pay them peanuts, you'll get monkeys. I love it. All right, funny. Brother. I appreciate you coming on, and click that link, get the book. I've done one or two other books. I've had lots of other people that wanted to come on and talk about their book that I have not had on. I know David Moerman really well. I trust him with everything. I trust him with my family. So get that book, make it happen, and God bless you guys out there. Do it with a lot of peace and love in your heart, and I think good things will start to happen. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday at around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time.